Thanks, Barry. Okay, so what we're going to do today is Cindy has, I guess, volunteered or was voluntold to give us a presentation today. So she's going to be talking about communication and some interesting ways of pivoting within your industry. And as you guys may or may not know, she sees so many different examples of this in her line of work. So we're really fortunate to have her on this committee and to hear her talk today. So Cindy, I'm going to assume that you want this to be interactive too, so people can ask questions.
Yeah,
So
that
go ahead.
works. So I have a presentation. So this is going to be a little, this is honestly, I actually gave this presentation a while ago. And one of the things that I like to do is help franchisees be top performers. I mean, I don't know everything, but there's a lot of things that because of what I do and the franchises I work with that I see people making the same mistakes over and over. Um, and so I have this presentation that I think can put things into perspective a little bit as we are at the end of 2020. Periodically, I get people that call me that say, my darn franchisor, they're not doing what I want. And so therefore, things aren't going like as planned. So what can I do? So that was the conversation that Emma and I had earlier about, well, what are we really talking about here? So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to start with a little bit of background because for many of us here on this call, we're entrepreneurs, and we know that entrepreneurship, it's not on a piece of paper, it's right up here. It's all in our brain, it's between our ears. If you can't get out of your own way, it's really hard to be successful as an entrepreneur because you got to be a little bit of self-motivation. You're not going to have a boss standing there telling you what to do. You have to get out of your own way and do yourself a favor. And so that's why I have this presentation. So let's see if I can bring it up here. Share. All right. Can you guys see that where it says business hierarchy of needs? All right. I'm going to talk a little bit about this because this gives some background as far as what might be going on for some people. And then at the end, I have a slide on how certain businesses are switching things up and examples of ways that certain industries are pivoting in this time. Because right now, look, if there is anything that is going to get us down and help us or keep us from being our best, it's the environment that we're in right now, because we can think of a lot of different reasons why things are the way they are. And I'm not growing or my business isn't growing because of COVID. Listen, we can all blame a little bit on that. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of things going on, but if we can pivot our own brains and maybe come up with some creative ways to do things, then why not? Let's just see what happens. So I'm going to talk about this business hierarchy of needs because I think it's really important. So the biggest problem entrepreneurs have is that they don't know what their biggest problem is. I mean, this goes for whether it's a franchise or whether it is a business in general. And so being able to recognize what your biggest problem um, is half the battle of entrepreneurship here. So, and we're going to talk about what I think for a lot of people right now, the biggest challenge is, and we're going to talk about that. I'm going to skip over the survival chat because normally this presentation is longer and I want to be able to save time. But basically, this summarizes the fact that we get caught in one thing and one way of thinking, and it's really hard to get ourselves out of it. And I think we could probably all agree that that happens. But let me tell you something called this is the business hierarchy of needs. This is what I was talking about. So, has anybody ever heard the phrase sales solves all problems? I mean, that's the honest truth. Sales solves all problems. So if your business is suffering and you're looking outside to find blame, the reality is if you're making sales, none of the other stuff matters. It really doesn't. If your business is doing well, sales are coming in, you're being able to fulfill them, you're collecting the money to keep your business profitable and healthy, because a healthy business is a profitable business, then nothing else really matters. You can work your way out of anything else, all these other little things. But in the business hierarchy of needs, this explains where people are. So basically, businesses can be divided into these 5 areas here: sales, profit, order, impact, and legacy. And it all starts at the bottom. As you can tell, sales down here at the bottom of this pyramid is the biggest thing. Sales is oxygen for a business. And all of the other nitpicking things that we have going on with our business or reasons why things aren't doing well, those tend to come up here in these other areas. Well, I can't get profit. Things are out of order. I can't figure out how to make things work. At the end of the day, if you don't have sales, then it's really easy to try to focus on these other things and fix those, but you got to fix this. You got to create that cash flow. That is the oxygen for any organization. Let me just move on to this one. So again, there's a whole bunch of things that go into sales, and I work with people on ideas for how they can get sales in, and what other industries might be doing or what other similar businesses might be doing. So I talk with people about, how they're doing this, how are they generating sales. The next level up is profit, and profit involves things like, okay, so we've got sales coming in. Now it's time to really hone in and define where we want to put our money and get rid of things that we don't need to have in there. So it's really refining that sales role so that you can actually start to see more profit. But if you put profit before sales, you're going to start focusing on the wrong things. So you got to get that oxygen in first. You got to be able to take the breath, get money coming in, then you can start focusing on profit. And a lot of those things are like being able to manage a payroll. How can we fix our payroll? How can we manage our scheduling so that we can see more profit? Or how can we get rid of some expenses to manage our profit better? Those things all come in detail a little bit higher up. The next one we have is order. This is systems. This is franchising right here. Order is what your franchisor has created for you. It is the system behind your business. So all of those policies, all those procedures. For businesses that are starting from scratch and they don't have policies and procedures or systems or ways of doing business, a lot of times they end up putting their effort here instead of back down here in sales. Like, if you're not making sales, this doesn't even matter. This doesn't matter at all. This is something that comes as you grow. And it's like, and I'll give examples of this. Sometimes you fall into these things by accident. I mean, who hasn't done that where you create something and go, oh, who would have seen that would have had such an impact? And then you write it down and suddenly it becomes a system. So that's what franchising does, of course. So if you're focusing on creating systems first, it can get in the way of getting your sales and your profit. All right. And then we go into the impact area. And this is where everybody wants to be able to be someday. But I see a lot of people trying to focus here first, again, before they start making sales and profit. People come into a business because they want to make a difference. And that is so cool. And that's fun. But if you're not making money yourself, if you're not paying yourself, if you're not being able to pay the rent, if you're not being able to to turn things into a profitable business, a healthy business is a profitable business. It doesn't matter what impact you have in the world because you don't have the money to make the impact. So for people who try to make that impact first and going out into the community and doing things with the community and giving money away and making a difference, and like really what you need to do is get sales and start that whole process first. Everybody wants to leave that impact. I mean, who doesn't want to make an impact? Sometimes the impact has to come later because you got to focus your efforts first. And then up here at the top is legacy. And this is where we want to start talking about exit strategies. Like, how can I turn this business into something that I can leave my children or that I can sell later on so that I can retire? What kind of legacy do I want to leave? What kind of name do I want to have for my business in the community? It's a little bit higher than impact. It's greater leadership through your business. And that's the pinnacle. And that's where everybody wants to be. So I wouldn't venture to say that people aren't in some of these other areas, no matter what stage of the business you're in. But if you're just starting out, and this is why it's so critical, even in a franchise, the franchisor wants you to do this first. They may not always state it that way, but seriously, you gotta get that oxygen and that blood flow going to your business. There's so many people who look at profit and sales as dirty words. And I see this from the clients who come and work for me. They're like, oh gosh, it's just not important to me to make money. Well, it better be, because again, a healthy business is a profitable business is a healthy business. And I tell my stylists all the time, if it looks like I'm just out there trying to make money for the business, I want you to understand my reasons behind it. My healthy business keeps you employed allows you to have raises, allows you to have bonuses, allows us to bring in more clients to make you more money. So it's all a part of creating this healthy business. And I think sometimes it's really easy to lose sight of that. And one of the three things that I found that all business owners need to have is a way to get out of their own way. So that's managing your mind. They need to be able to make a decision and make a decision quickly. And they need to be able to live in a semi-permanent state of discomfort, because that's what entrepreneurs are good at. That's why not everybody's cut out to be an entrepreneur. If they don't want to live in a state of discomfort and they just want everything to be the same day after day, and we all know people like that, they should get a job, because that's where they feel comfortable. Now, a job isn't guaranteed, and I can tell people this all day long. Like, yeah, you can have this false sense of, you know, being comfortable all the time, but the reality is you can lose your job any day too. So it's a risk no matter what you do. Getting up in the morning, stepping foot outside your bed, walking in the street, getting a job, starting a business. It's all a risk. It's just the level of risk that people perceive. So again, that's why business ownership is in the mind as much as anything else. So let's take a look one more time, and then I'm going to go into the pivoting topic that I wanted to talk about, because I think this plays really well into the pivoting topic. So I like this particular one right here, because take a look how people are, and you've probably heard this phrase, we want to be able to give to get. If you give, you're going to get, like giving and receiving. The more you give, the more you receive. In business ownership, I would like to propose that we need to get first in order to give. So as we create these things here at the bottom and create a strong, solid base, then we can turn around and give. That's where we can make the impact, and that's where we can make the most difference through our business. So the fun part, let's talk about how I've seen some businesses that are doing pivoting right now. And I may not have included all of these, but when I talk about pivoting, I want to talk about this pandemic and what it's done for certain businesses, because we don't think about that. I want to start with the beauty industry. I'm just going to tell you, because I'm in the beauty industry. I have a salon. I don't cut hair. I hire people to cut hair. When we had to close during the pandemic in April and May, it just seemed like the absolute worst thing that could happen. And it did feel that way. And it kind of was, because I got behind in my rent. What immediately happens, and I would say this is probably true for most business owners, when it comes down to paying the rent or paying your employees, guess who's going to come first? It's paying the payroll. So those landlords are just going to have to sit and wait. That was the decision that I made. That's what a lot of my counterparts made as well. It's like, sorry, landlord, you're going to have to wait. That money is going to go to my employees. And funny thing, even if people had reserves to pay their rent and to keep up on their expenses, they immediately went into hoarding mode. They immediately said, nope, 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 that money's got to stay in my bank account. I'm not going to pay these things. And not all businesses, but a lot of them did, because when they saw no income coming in on the front end, they immediately went into, and this is what we do as humans, that hoarding mode. I'm going to pay my employees, and then that rest of that money is going to sit in the bank account, because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what I'm going to need that for. So the landlord's going to have to wait. I did it. I got behind 3 months in my rent, knowing that, there would be some ways that I could get caught up. But what I didn't see coming out of this, the pivoting that I had to do, we had to immediately go to appointment only. Anybody in the beauty industry, we're regulated by the Colorado Department of Regulatory Agencies and the Colorado Department of Health. So that kind of falls in line with doctors, dentists, chiropractors, salons and spas, day spas, anything like that sort of falls in that. We're all licensed by the Colorado Department of Regulatory Agencies. We all had to immediately go into appointment only mode. Nail techs, nail salons, things of that nature. We couldn't take walk-ins. Well, in the children's hair care industry, that's kind of weird for them, because parents just think they should be able to walk in. Once I went to appointment only, we made a lot of people mad, but I'll tell you right now, I was able to manage my business in a way that I didn't even realize. And I'll never go back to walk-ins. I mean, if somebody happens to walk in and we have an opening, that's great. But I'm never going to advertise walk-ins again, because being appointment only helped me to manage my business so much better. I didn't see that. coming out of COVID. I thought it was going to be detrimental, and it turned out not to be. There's a couple reasons why. We were able to fill up those open spots first. So what I ended up doing is, this is a way for me to manage my payroll. If nobody booked early in the morning or late at night, but there were some bookings in between, I blocked off the hours in the morning and at night. We opened later, we closed earlier. And we filled up those spots in between so that we were back-to-back appointments, 15-minute appointments. And then we would open those spots as a demand came in during the day. I had no idea that that would dramatically improve my business. Basically, what it allowed me to do was do more appointments with fewer employees. I don't want to say fewer employees, a lower payroll. I was able to manage my payroll much better because I was able to get more people in. And for some people in the beauty industry and retail, I put down here lower rents. We are able to negotiate a little bit, although I can't really say that I'm seeing landlords playing along with the, oh yeah, here, we're going to reduce your rent. That's not really what's happening. But what they did do is they allowed many people to tack their rent payments onto the end of their lease so that they were able to continue operating. They're still committed to the rent that they have to pay, but they tacked it onto the end of their lease. And that happened a lot in retail. So that really gave some breathing room for a lot of retail type based franchises. So that's one example of pivoting that we didn't necessarily see in the beauty industry at first, but now I love it because I can really just hone in and manage my payroll so much better. So going back over here to the food industry, um, the in the food industry, one of the things that we've seen, my son manages Starbucks. And when food franchises, and Starbucks isn't a franchise, but my son is a manager for one. When food franchises had to close, or when a lot of restaurants had to close the first time around, it was kind of devastating for many. But if they had drive-throughs, a lot of times that really kept their business alive. And if it not only did it keep them alive, in many cases, some of those locations did better. So here's an example of what Starbucks is doing, which a lot of people could actually take on if they're in the food industry. Starbucks is actually closing all stores, or they will get to the point where they're going to close all stores that don't have a drive-through. If you don't have a drive-through, that store is eventually going to go away, because it doesn't make any sense in pandemic times to have a store that nobody can come in and sit down at. I mean, they come in to pick up their coffee, but the traffic is limited. And in fact, it's cut in half when you don't have a drive-through. And Starbucks found that they actually did better. Some of their stores actually did better during the pandemic because of the drive-through.
Okay.
So that kind of gives you an example of things. And so a lot of the food franchises or the food businesses are pivoting in terms of being able to offer delivery, which many didn't do. And when COVID hit, it was like do or die. I better start doing delivery. When the food franchises closed, or when the food business closed this second time around, I don't know if y'all noticed this or not, but tents are going up everywhere, and outside dining is being created in spots that nobody ever thought would be created, along sidewalks, in the parking lots behind the buildings. So tents are a way. Now, people are going to argue, what's the difference, sitting in a tent or sitting inside? Who cares? If you're able to open your business and you can operate in a tent, which they're able to do, they're doing it. And that's another example of a pivot. Again, drive-throughs, pickup, all of those things contribute to being able to keep your food business open. And up here at the top of that list, has anybody on here heard of a ghost kitchen? Anybody know what a ghost kitchen is? Okay, I have a franchise in a ghost kitchen. What a ghost kitchen does is it's a standalone organization that doesn't have a storefront. It's a standalone food concept that doesn't have a storefront, doesn't have a location, doesn't have a kitchen. They actually go in and they rent the kitchens of businesses, of food concepts that are already in business and operating. They train the people who are in the back cooking the food on how to cook additional food for this other company and do delivery. So it adds food choices to this kitchen. It's not normally on the menu, but this other company actually does all the delivery. They create the menu. They come up with a very sophisticated, or not sophisticated, but a simple menu that is in high demand for delivery. And they run it out of an operating retail food franchise or food business. Okay. So it's a great way for some of those kitchens to stay busy and make money. And at the same time, the company that's the ghost kitchen that comes up with the idea, they're making money too, and they're doing delivery. So who would have thought that's one of the ways that these businesses are pivoting? So there are ghost kitchens out there that are looking specifically for that. In the home services area, this has been really, really unusual because well, it's not really unusual, but I mean, if you think about it, a lot of people are working from home, which means they have to sit in their kitchens that they've been wanting to remodel for some time. They have to deal with bathrooms or basements that they haven't been able to take care of because they've been working outside the home. The home services industry is going gangbusters right now. And in fact, if you tried to get something fixed in your home, you might be on a wait list. Um, or if you try to get something remodeled right now, trying to find a contractor who can actually do that, or to find a company that can actually do that for you, is a challenge in many cases. So who would have known that would have, the home services industry is just going crazy. So a lot of them, if they aren't getting people coming to them through organic methods, they're paying for leads through some places like Home Advisor. And Home Advisor is, my other son works at Home Advisor. They're going through the roof. They're going crazy right now. That business is booming. And Home Advisor actually sells leads to contractors, plumbers, electricians, things of that nature. They go out and they find people who want to have these things done in their home. They match them up with a contractor who pays Home Advisor for that service. So it's amazing. And this also gives these companies an opportunity to demonstrate their safety capabilities, like wearing booties over their shoes, wearing their PPE, really being safe and really helping to put people at ease when they're coming in and working in their homes. They can't just walk in and not be equipped. They have to be in safety mode. So it gives them a chance to demonstrate that and to earn people's respect through it as well. In the fitness industry, a lot of fitness franchises are moving everything outside. A couple doors down from me is a fitness concept called Manic Training, which is a franchise. It's small. They don't have very many, but there's Manic Training at University and County Line. And every morning at 6 a.m., they're wheeling all of their equipment outside, even in December, and they're doing their training in December. So they're actually working outside. You have to make appointments now. You can't just drop in, sort of like the beauty industry in the fitness world. You can't just drop in any gym that you go into. You have to make a reservation. So what that does is it holds people accountable. It gets people in. It helps you to plan. And what it may require is you have to add on more classes. So something like Orange Theory Fitness, they can't fit in 30 people like they used to. They can only fit in maybe 12 to 15 people. What they have to do is add more classes in order to accommodate that. So they can be in demand and they can actually really grow from this, but they have to think outside the box and how to get the same amount of people that they're used to getting in a different way. And a lot of them, I didn't even list this here, but a lot of them are doing digital workouts. And I think we've seen that. Over here under consulting, I have seen this huge boom for consulting businesses, coaching, consulting, business growth, personal growth, things of that nature. So many of them now are offering online classes that people can buy and actually do it on their own time. There's so many really sophisticated platforms out there that allows people to put together programs of all the stuff going on in their head that they can sell online. So I've seen that booming right now. There are consulting franchises that are going in that direction. A lot of digital training. There's no need for an executive office anymore because everything is through Zoom. So that saves them money as well. They don't have to have their office. They can take payments online instead of having somebody write them a check. So there's ways to actually get, and that leads into retainers for growth. They can actually set up retainers so that they're able to minimize or even out their income that they're seeing over time. And then last but not least, now this is just, again, there's so many industries, but I'm just giving examples here. In the advertising field, there's also franchises in advertising as well. Customers are spending more on digital right now. Digital's where everybody is. And I will say this too, in my business, Facebook, LinkedIn advertising, Instagram advertising, going crazy. But it's not something you can necessarily do on your own. I mean, you can, but it's not intuitive. For some people pick it up fast. Other people are like, yeah, I'm just going to pay somebody to do that for me because I don't know. I don't understand it as well. I can't do it as quickly. I've got my business to run. So they're paying companies to help them with their digital advertising, which is booming right now. You can get creative with your displays. Automobile advertising is hot right now, and anything in signs. Now, traffic's picking back up, people. I wouldn't have necessarily said this back in March when there was no traffic on the road, but people are tired of being inside. Traffic is almost back to its previous levels. So it's not like people aren't out on the road and they're not seeing your vehicle, because they are. And vehicle advertising is big right now. It's hugely in demand. Text messaging and text marketing management is huge, getting to people in ways that they hadn't been reached before. And this is lead generation services. It's lead generation services. There's a lot of companies that are actually going out to find leads for people in certain industries. It's just a hot topic right now. And so there's lots of ways to pivot and make these things work. You don't necessarily have to create a full color print magazine in order to do it. There's so many different ways for these advertising companies to actually do business. So this is just some examples. Anybody have any comments? I don't know if this was helpful. If it helps people think in a different way, I want to be able to see if people have some input on this.